Hello guys and welcome back to I'm a Celeb Catch Up, and today we have got a lot to talk about. I say that every single episode, it does not change. We've got some stuff to talk about, which I've already said, so that's a bit strange. So we've got the Critter Mixer trial to talk about, we've got a Dingo Dollar trial, we've got another shocking exit, although to be fair, I feel like at this moment in time every single elimination is going to be shocking until Nigel goes. And I also feel like we've gotten to a point in the series where I genuinely don't know who's going to go next. So it's gonna be an interesting one for the next couple of nights, I won't lie. But without much further ado, let's get straight into the episode. So I'm just going to point out a few little things that I noticed before the trial started. So first of all, Fred woke up acting as if he wasn't going to be leaving that day, which was quite funny. Nigel went in and woke up Danielle and Josie and were like, oh, we didn't have the greatest empire in the world by sleeping in all day, and they were just like, oh, yeah, fair enough. Nigel's just an odd bod at the moment, isn't he? He's just a bit strange. And then Danielle actually had a tick on her back, which was a bit creepy, and then last but not least, after they said goodbye to Fred, Nick was legging it to the toilet because he needed a shit. And unfortunately, Josie had the displeasure of hearing it explode. And they were just wetting themselves laughing because of because of Nick's bowels. Oh, it was very, very entertaining to watch, and I gotta say it was such a good start to the episode. Very entertaining, very wholesome at times. Yeah, good stuff. So it's time to talk about the Critter Mixer. And I gotta say, I really enjoy it when they do these trials. I think these trials should come up more often. I think it's really entertaining. They have one person in the cab of a sort of like cement mixer almost. And where am I going with this? And they have to answer general knowledge questions. And if they get it right, then the people in the cement mixer, there's a star dropped in, there's bugs dropped in, and then they're rotated and they have to try and catch the star. I think it's highly entertaining. I find it really, really entertaining, and I think it's great. I like general knowledge quizzes. I think they're fun, and it seems like it looked like a really, really gut-churning trial. And I gotta say, Tony, Marvin, and Nick were the perfect trio for this, because Tony is hysterical. When I tell you, I was wetting myself at some of the things he was saying, and I've written some of my favourites down, so let me just read them off for you. I put Tony is too funny. There's organs in me arse. That was the first one that I noticed. There was like offal and fish guts and slime being dunked on him, and he was just not having a good time. Even though he wasn't in with all the bugs being rotated and trying to catch stars, all he had to do was sit there and take horrible gunk landing on him. The next one was he was asked about how many vowels are there in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and after he got it correct, he said, I know the vowels, A-E-I-O-U, I love countdown. Oh my god, do you know what? This guy did not expect him to be so funny. And I feel like it's the I can't think of who I'm thinking of, but there was a sports person a couple of years back, or like maybe it might be more than five, I don't know. But they came in and I was like, ugh, they're gonna be really boring. But they were actually very, very entertaining, and I was really surprised that they were that entertaining, just because they didn't seem like that when they first came in. But this Tony, you've done yourself proud here. He kept on shouting, "This is a disgrace," which I found hysterical, and I thought that was too funny. And then there was a question about how many teeth does a great white shark have on average, and after he got it correct, he went, no one sits there and counts how many teeth a great white shark has. I'm not doing them justice, but within the context of the trial, me, Ant and Deck wetting ourselves, absolutely wetting ourselves. And you just gotta appreciate the humour, I think. I really do think you gotta appreciate the humour. So the trial went on for a little bit. Tony managed to get all the questions correct, which I was impressed with. Although Ant and Dec were helping him with sort of like higher and lower. So he did do quite well there. But where am I going with this? They managed to get 6 out of 7 stars. The only star they didn't get was the purple one, and that's because it landed in the middle of the mixer and it just would not move out of the middle of the mixer, which was a bit of a shame because it technically wasn't their fault. It's not like they couldn't grab it in time. It's they physically couldn't. They couldn't grab it because of the way it was moving. So it did seem a little bit unfair that they didn't get that one. But 6 out of 7 is better than nothing. So you gotta take what you can get. And like I said, it was a highly entertaining trial, and I wish they did quite like the things like this more often, because they've done previous ones, like they've done like a Wheel of Misfortune that was quite entertaining, where you got dunked in the tank. That was quite cool. But yeah, I was very entertained, I gotta say. So it's time for some more misc moments, but instead of it just being random moments, all of these moments involve everyone's favourite ADHD person, Sam. And I gotta say, he's the nation's favourite, I think, at the moment. And if he doesn't win, I think it's gonna be criminal. It's crazy how he went from being someone that I was like indifferent about being on the show. I was like, I think he's entertaining, but like, I don't know, there's other people I want to see more, to like the person that I look forward to seeing every single night, which is great. He was down in the pool and he was on the lilo and he spotted some spiders by the creek, and that just made me feel so uncomfortable and unwell and wanting to escape. Oh God, it was awful. And I also thought that he was down with Josie and Danielle, and they decided to like jump on each other and create like a pineapple pyramid. It was a bit of an interesting situation, I won't lie. I don't know how well that's going to be perceived on the outside world. But I think you've got to view it as like they were just doing it in jest. There's no ill intent here. It wasn't awkward at all. Sam was very respectful of them as well, and it's just something you do when you're mucking about with mates. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. There was also trying to think what else there was at that point in the episode. Oh, Josie and Sam were talking about having kids, and we've seen Sam talk about having kids before, and the fact that he wants them, but obviously he's got to make sure he's in the right mental frame of mind in order to do it. And I think he is very mature in that sense of that he's very aware that he needs to be a certain way in order to raise a child, and he knows that right now he is not in that state, so he doesn't want to have them just yet. Or I think that's the gist I got from that conversation. But either way, I think it's really sort of testament to the fact that he is very aware of his sort of behavior and his ADHD-ness, and he's able to sort of articulate that in a really sort of informative, interesting way. So yeah, Sam, we have big love for you. We have big love for you over on this channel. As for where am I going with this? The last little bit, he was so funny. So funny when he was just chucking little bits of like tree debris onto Tony to wake him up, and then Tony and then played it off as if it was, oh, it was just the tree. Oh yeah, it was just the tree, and Tony believed him. Tony and Sam, my favourite comedy duo of the series. It's literally Shrek and Donkey, and I have never like a comedy duo, but where like one of literally is Shrek and Donkey. That's crazy. I know I mentioned it a couple of episodes ago, but like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that's wild how like those two are the exact sort of definitions of those characters. So it's time to talk about the Dingo Dollar Challenge, and I gotta say this one was quite entertaining. It had Josie and Nigel participating in the challenge, and how do I describe this? There was like a disgusting pool. There was loads and loads of lilos in said pool, and they had to sort the lilos based on commands given by Kev? I guess. I think that's the voice that was over the loudspeaker. I don't know. And then they had to take the Lilos through like a pool noodle maze and then put them in like a collection basket. And then if they got them right, they'd get a win and then they'd have to do something else. The first round was birds that can fly. And Nigel mistook a penguin for a puffin. And that was their mistake on that one. Their second one was actually what was their second one? Oh, sea creatures, and so they got through that one fairly easily. It's quite easy to know which ones are sea creatures and which ones aren't. And then the last one was words that have 8 letters in them. So like, I was gonna say octopus, but octopus only has 7. I don't know. I can't remember what eight letter words they had. But one of the ones that caused the most problems for them was the pineapple. And I was incredibly shocked that both Nigel and Josie fucked up the spelling numerous times. I think Josie was spelling it like Pinapple, so pineapple, which makes 8 letters. And then Nigel was like, oh no, there's definitely an E in it, so it's Pineapple. And I was like, pineapple literally has the easiest way to remember it. Pine, apple. Pine like the tree, apple like the fruit. Pineapple. Pen, pineapple, apple, pen. Yeah, and it's been a long time since I've heard that. But like, pen, pineapple, apple, pen. Was that to do with a pineapple? Pineapple, pen. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I remember that meme. Sorry, I really just went off in a sort of daze there. My God. But yeah, so it was very entertaining. They realised that the pineapple was not an 8-letter word eventually, and they got the Dingo Dollars. So they went to Kiosk Kev, and finally we got a question about Josie's work this morning, and it was just what has actually happened on this morning. The 3 options were Alison has officiated a wedding between a woman and a dog. Dermot O'Leary has been hypnotised and clucked on national television, and Gina D'Acampo is stripped off and jumped into the Thames. I gotta admit, I got this one right because I actually watched it. Nigel was like, it's definitely not the first one, surely not. And Josie was like, oh, it all happens on this morning. And I can attest to the fact that I have watched Alison officiate a wedding between a woman and her dog. Yeah, that was not a particularly great moment for this country, I got to admit. Not great in the slightest. But they got the chocolate digestives. There was 1 each, which I think was fair. And yeah, they did a good job today. I was very, very impressed, I gotta say. So we finally got some answers to the question of why Nigel decided to come into the jungle, and he said he kind of wanted to change his image, because like he's known for being a very divisive person, and he wanted people to get to know the real him. And I feel like that's a phrase that a lot of politicians use when they're very unpopular with the masses. And yeah, so I don't know why you're going on I'm a Celeb. Because the masses don't watch I'm a Celeb. This has been the least watched season in I'm a Celeb history, which is crazy. But regardless, he did explain a lot about what he did, because I've been confused about what he's been going on about when he sat in the European Parliament. Apparently, he was a member of the European Parliament, so he was there to make the laws and things like that for our country, which I did not know. And I feel like he explained the situation a lot better than he has, and about why Brexit came about the fact that we wanted, he wanted Brexit, because then the country has say over their own laws, whereas the European Parliament used to dictate laws and the British Parliament could not do anything about it. And so I understood why from that point of view. And Tony Bellew, big king, stood up and was like, look, since Brexit, a food shop that has cost £80 is now £120. And like, what do you say to that? And Nigel's like, well, I think you'll find that's happening across Europe. And Tony basically said, well, it's not happening in Portugal. And I was like, okay, that's not a very good example, because like that's one country out of all of them. And I know that there is cost of living crises, I don't know, going on across Europe, not just in our country. So it's a bad example, but it still raises a good point. It's happening far worse in this country. And I think that's something that Nigel wasn't necessarily prepared to answer or prepared to talk about, because he did seem a little bit flustered. But yeah, I'm grateful that no one's sort of letting him sort of get away with it, if you know what I mean, like say what he wants to say and no one sort of challenges him. Even Josie was challenging him at some points. Josie's very much in a reporter state of mind all the time. She doesn't want to, she's there to not directly attack, but to sort of question why did you do this, why did you do that. And I feel like that's because on This Morning they're very impartial, or they try to be very impartial, and they're just trying to get to the root of what's happening, if you get what I mean. So before we get to Nick's exit, we are going to talk about dinner and the possum. That's us talked about dinner. My God, my English is dreadful today. I'm so sorry, guys. That was poor of me. That was dinner. That's me having spoke about dinner. Sure, let's go with that. There was also, like, whilst they were waiting for dinner, Sam tried to play a game with everyone and it didn't really work. So Nick was the fourth person to be got out of the jungle, to be voted out of the jungle, I guess. Yeah, we're going with that. And I can't say I'm surprised. I think today the vote was between Nick, Marvin and Danielle. And as soon as Marvin and Danielle were named safe, I knew Nick was going home. I'm just really hoping that Nigel does not make it to the top 4. Because I don't want to see him do Celebrity Cyclone, if I'm being honest. I don't think he deserves it. So that means he's got to go over tonight or tomorrow night. But like, I don't know. I'm going to move on. But I got to say, Nick is someone that I did not know going in, but I actually really like. I think he's great. I think he's lovely. And he's had some hilarious moments. He's had some very, very funny moments. And I find it very, very interesting that every single person that has left the jungle so far has said they wanted Sam to be the winner. So, guys, can we make it happen? Can we make his dreams come true? Imagine if he's gone on I'm a Celeb being the biggest fan of it ever, and he actually wins it. I think he'd cry. I think we'd see a grown man cry on television, which, as much as, like, that's not a very nice thing to want. I want to see him cry because, like, oh my God, it would be beautiful. It would be happy tears, obviously, not sad tears. But, like, oh my goodness, he would just be so overwhelmed with emotion. But that's all we've got time for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Keep on ranting. Bye now.